Hello, a very good evening to our viewers. Welcome to ELITETV and you're watching Open Debate in English. I'm Amrita, your host for this crucial debate on the topic 6 months of violence and economic factor. We have lived through 6 months of ethnic violence. We have seen so many tragic deaths, injuries, displacement, loss of properties, loss of home, and loss of land. Besides all these, there has been a steep decline in the skeletal economic activities of the state. The consequence of this fact on our society will be disastrous. Already a famine is looming on the horizon. To mention a few, the border trade at More was given business to thousands of people directly or indirectly. There were more than 1,000 transport vehicles solely sustaining on More trade. This includes trucks and other passenger service vehicles. They are all standing idle for 6 months. Same thing is happening in other routes too. Vehicle repossession by financiers for prolonged default of EMI is becoming a regular affair. These events are seldom in the news, but it ruins many families. Agriculture is the backbone of our fragile economy. It is the worst hit sector now. Instead of working on their paddy fields, the farmers have been guarding their villages against attacks. Frequent market closure and perennial highway blockades are accelerating our economic demise. The cost of just being alive is skyrocketing now. The sources of income are also vanishing. The ugly side effects are appearing to show up, just for example, theft, extortion, and robbery. They are also rising. The attention of the general public on both sides are more focused now on who is killing more people. Little do they know that a possible famine could kill much more than what guns killed in the last 6 months. To discuss on this matter, we will welcome our panelists now. Our first panelist for tonight is Professor Amar Yumnam, former VC, Manipur University. Welcome to Open Debate. Our second panelist for tonight is Mr. N. Seitajeet, Bureau Chief, UNI.
Thank you.
And our third panelist for tonight is Karajam Athawa, representative of Kokomi, but he will be joining us shortly later. So we will start with the debate right away with Professor Amar. That my first question to you is that, do you think that it is high time to sound the alarm regarding this impending economic disaster that we're almost facing? We need to make both the public and also the government aware of what is imminent. Do you think it is too late already?
See, the economic factor which we learned during the last 50 or 40 years back, and the economic factor as important as we are being appreciated, and we are appreciating the fact that economic factor today is in a very different way. Economic factor was economic factor alone, say 40 years back, 50 years back. But today, economic factor is one of the social factors. It affects the other social dimensions, interpersonal relationships, and intergroup relationships, and all the political and administrative dimensions of any social existence. So the importance of economic factor is being appreciated today as the determining factor of the society's existence or not. Whether the society is healthy or not, is the society having a capability to move forward, all these issues and the related ones are decided by economic factor.
Right.
When the economic factor becomes very bad, all our children will be without education.
Right.
All the economic factors are bad, all the families will go without food. When these things happen, violence will be a very common thing in any society.
Right.
So even violence is something which will be decided whether it will happen or not. So while talking of economic factor, quite often we consider it to be the daily food requirements and the daily earning capabilities to finance our activities. It goes much beyond that. Mm-hmm. Economic factor touches our daily life, touches our health, touches our education, touches our feelings. So economic factor is something which is very, very important. In fact, economic factor is the one which is causing greatest irritation in the ongoing conflict between Meiteis and the Kukis. So while talking of economic factor, let us first accept the fact that economic factor decides the nature of the social relationship.
Right.
In any society, if the economic factor is very unhealthy, well, the nature of social relationship will be very, very unhealthy. And this is more so in a society like Manipur, where there is less diversification of the economy of the state, where it's still very, very dependent on our agriculture. If we are diversifying well, say modern digital technology side or industrial side and other factors are also vibrant, then it will be a different picture. But with the lack of diversification in our functioning, in our existence as a society, the dependency on whatever little economic activity Manipur has been carrying on, well, is much deeper and wider than it could be.
Right.
That is where the significance of the economic factor lies, and that is exactly where the greatest hit Manipur's economy has been facing continuously, not just 6 months. We have been there for the last 4 years. Pandemic has been the one which has affected our economic engagement. When our economic engagement has been affected adversely, our social engagement has also been affected adversely. It includes education also, when I talk of social engagement. So when our education, our social existence, our societal relationship across population, and our daily livelihood, all these have been affected adversely for 4 years, and now, well, deepened and widened by the conflict between the two community groups. It's really bad. It's a really bad scenario. The way things are, supposing that Manipur's economy starts moving on the recovery path, it will take at least 15 to 20 years to recover the stage which was there in 2019-19.
Right.
And remember, the rest of the world will be moving much ahead. So it's a very, very tragic scenario we are in insofar as economic factor is concerned.
Okay, very good point that Mr. Amar Yumnam has placed that the present crisis will be even putting us back to 2018 regarding the economic progress so far that we have made. And I'll be coming to Mr. Seitajeet on that note that, as Mr. Yumnam also mentioned, that this economic factor and the economic crisis has not only been affected by the last 6 months, but also has been going further previous than that, like even from the last 4 years. So on that note, I want to ask you, like, during such kind of financial crisis, we observe that the state government relies on the handouts from the center, and our people are left to fend for themselves. Do you think this approach to economic planning is very passive? Do you think that our culture of this quick money is leading the public to neglect their financial discipline?
Before coming to the question, we have understood that the crisis which is going on for the last 6 months, more than 6 months now, this has caused a colossal loss in the entire state. Our entire future has been destroyed, and if we calculate that about 1 lakh people has been affected out of 32 lakhs, then we can easily assume that 1 out of every 32 person in Manipur is affected by the crisis. And what is important is how to build up the future, because as you rightly mentioned that our resources is almost nil, as Tamo has pointed out, the entire dynamics of economics involved in Manipur.
Right.
But as a layman, what I can see is that our future generation has been deprived of their level playing field. For instance, when internet was banned and is still going on, we have to understand that the entire population, especially the children, the students, they depend on it. I mean, for education, for anything, examination and all. So we have deprived our future, our future generations, the pillars of the society, everything which are required to mold their future. So we can say that we have, as Tamo has rightly pointed out, that it will take another 10 to 15 years to rebuild our society.
Right.
But we have to understand that we have destroyed an entire generation. And because once if they cannot properly educate themselves, then they don't have any future. Then their entire lives will be wasted. Now the crisis is people are more concerned about today. Will we be alive, and where will the food come from? And we are not prepared for the future because we are not certain if we will die today or will be alive. So as you said that, because for instance, Manipur government has spent around 400 crores for rehabilitation.
Right.
But we have to understand that the issue is the affected person is given just rupees 1,000. And in 1,000 you cannot do anything. 1,000 to a person to survive 6 months is nothing. About 400 crores. Now it has requested any additional fund from the center. So Manipur has no resources. So we are, as you rightly pointed out, we are entirely dependent on the center for everything. Earlier we used to have certain schemes through which we used to enjoy some privileges, especially the northeastern states and smaller states. But after the coming of the new government, especially the BJP government, Mr. Modi,
Right.
the entire economic system has been changed. They have stopped giving certain fund to us, and they have changed the dynamics of funding also.
I think we may have lost a sound from Mr. Seitajeet. Can you hear us, Mr. Seitajeet? Okay. Okay, well, we are...
yes, am I audible now?
yes, you're audible. You can continue, please.
Oh, yes. As I was pointing out, we are entirely dependent on the center for everything. We are for relief, for future road mapping. We are entirely dependent on the center. So what we have to do is we need a major change. We need a major focus on how to build up the entire society. For example, during the last 6 months, we can say that the students, the government could do adequate measures, could have taken up adequate measures so that they can have online classes, then any sort of e-commerce or whatsoever. And you must have noticed that during World War II, Manipur has experienced devastating wars. World War II, First World War, 7 years devastation. But the economy was different at that time. At those times, the economy was mostly primitive, and people resort to barter system. Now we have become a global village, and everything is connected to each other. And if we are left out, then I fear the worst, because our next generation will not be able to cope with their friends, with their colleagues, and they will not be able to fight. So what we can do is we have to put all our resources, we have to put all our available resources to protect the future, especially these students, so that they get proper education, and then they are not mentally harassed. So briefly I will say this in this first. Thank you.
Okay, as our two panelists, Mr. Yumnam and Mr. Seitajeet, also rightly pointed that the crisis of the economic crisis will also be affected to the societal relations, and especially to the children, because their education are hampered greatly. And that instead of relying too much on the center, and we should be able to make some major changes in order to make this economic changes, the small economic changes for the betterment of the children, especially in the education sector. On that note, I'd like to ask you, Mr. Amar, that recently the banks in Manipur have been instructed to prolong this moratorium of loans by 12 months owing to this conflict. And again, people who are seeking loans are also denied for the very same reason that the moratorium has been extended. But small business owners are affected a lot. Some of them may even lose their business, and in such crucial time, the small business owners are indeed very much needed. So how can this be prevented, Mr. Amar Yumnam?
Let me go beyond the loan thing.
Sure.
First of all, to begin with, the horror we are in is that the government is fully uneducated about policy making, and more so when it comes to economic policy making. Policy making is not something which is to be done in a vacuum. I want this, so let's have this policy. No. Understand the situation. We are in a crisis. The kind of crisis is such that we need action immediately. Action is not just doing asking the bank to give loans.
Right.
Where is the nature of the situation? We have people not having their places to stay in. We have people who simply are going without education. We have people whose place of residence is something where there is no networking with the surrounding society. So the people have lost their traditional networking of survival. The people have lost their children, their earlier networking with the education system. The people have lost their networking for social existence. When all these are in a vacuum and asking the banks to give loan, come on, policy making is not like that. We be very clear about policy making and how to frame policies in such a context. And when framing policies in such a thing, it's not long. It's not long. It should be a package system. Loan can be one component. But when we have a crisis like this, we have to address at least the major components of the crisis. So whatever policy we adopt should be a package system. Well, in the context of Manipur, what is happening right now is that, well, to me, it looks like the government has not even applied its mind on how to think about it.
Okay.
Forget policy on how to get about applying mind to evolve a policy. When you don't apply your mind to evolve a policy, there's no policy. Please don't call bank loan as a policy when the crisis is like this.
Okay.
So let us be very clear about policy making. Let's not take it as a joke. It's a very serious matter.
Right.
It's a matter which concerns the future of our society. And it's a concern about the very survival of some groups of people. When the survival question, when the sustainability question comes up, we have to be very clear on how to take care as a government. As a government, we have our people suffering from these crises. It's not this crisis. We are people suffering from these crises in the prudent form. When people are suffering in the prudent form, it's not just one bank loan which will address the thing. We have to address at least some core issues of the different crises. That is where we have to have a package. How to evolve a package of policies. I call it package. I mean it. I mean it in the sense that it should be packaged because one policy should be coordinated, should be linked with another. At the end, we address certain issues effectively. It's not just a package because we have one program there and another program there that the two programs are unrelated. No. We should have a package whereby the different programs have linkages and implications with each other. We have to evolve a policy like that. And we have to evolve it today. For our children, for our family, for our society, for our people. Because we can continue like this. And let us be very clear. It's not just the people who are living in the relief camps. The entire population of the people are suffering. They are also getting restless when you are having your relatives in the relief camp. How can you take rest?
Exactly.
Anyway, the entire society of Manipur is now restless. And a restless society can never engage in a sustainable development process. But that is exactly where the government comes into the picture. Government has to play or evolve a kind of atmosphere whereby the sustainability of the development process is sustained. And sustaining the development process is not a joke, it's a very serious matter. And it's a very serious matter which only the government of the place and the people can take care of. So, what is much more important, once again I emphasize, forget bank loan, make it only a component of the package. Let us involve a package of policies to address. Well, it's a group of people who have lost contact with the social network, the earlier network system. It is a group of people who have lost contact with the earlier economic linkages. It's a group of people who have responsibility not only to themselves, to their own children. When such a scenario is there, we have to evolve a package whereby we evolve at least 5-6 programs, with each program linking up with another, so that achieving one program helps in achieving the other program.
Okay, Professor Yumnam, by the package system, do you mean like schemes based, for example, like the MGNREGS schemes,
yes,
like, do you think like the job,
necessarily
guaranteed job schemes?
What is it much more important today is that you have a place to stay.
Right.
When you had your earlier home, you had a networking. You have lost that network. You don't even have a place where you can take your sleep in a peaceful way. Now, how to ensure a kind of a permanency to the livelihood of the people, and such that they can establish again, once again, evolve and cultivate a kind of relationship with the neighborhood. No family can exist without neighborhood and without networking with the neighborhood. We have to think of, okay, how can we think of evolving a program whereby a kind of permanency is ensured to the livelihood of the people, and such that they can evolve a kind of networking with the neighborhood. These are important things. These are important things for long-term planning.
Which is a community-based approach.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Without community, it's not something like I go today somewhere with 50 crores and no, it's not that kind of a scenario. Every family has to be ensure a kind of social livelihood. Exactly. How to ensure that social livelihood? That is the objective of it.
Okay, very good point. Professor Amar Yumnam mentioned the fragility of the policy making and the lack of will of making the policies, and that even criticized that just handing out bank loans and even giving moratorium is not enough. On that note, I'd like to come to the point of another sector, which is the agriculture. To Mr. Seitajeet, that the agriculture is the backbone of our country, even in Manipur. And this agriculture sector is very much affected, especially in the last 6 months during the sowing season. And there has been a lot in the news of firing and the and the farmers not being able to work. And on top of that, the farmers have been guarding the villages from attacks. And then we don't know how much of the crops could be harvested next year. Do you think that this kind of situation could lead to a certain kind of famine-like situation in the coming years? And what will be the fate of that on this note, Mr. Seitajeet?
Yes. Agriculture, as you mentioned, is the mainstay of our economy. It is the backbone of our society, and we have to understand that out of the entire populace, majority of our population, their main task, their main job is agriculture. Imphal, the Manipur Valley, is considered to be the producer of the grains, while the hills produces the vegetables and water-fed rain. So when this crisis started, we saw a trend where some people targeted the farmers. At that particular time, what we wanted was as a security policy wherein all the farmers are protected. All the farmers are protected, and we can assume that, for example, in the periphery areas, agricultural activities in the center of the valley are working very well. The farmers are doing well now. This is the peak agricultural season now, and the problem lies in the peripheries. And the government has identified about 34 to 38 security areas from where the attacks are coming. If 500 to 1,000 persons, security personnel, are deputed there, then we can easily assume and we can easily predict that the security scenario will improve and our farmers will be able to do their agricultural activities without any problem. And those who are responsible for the crisis, they have a special agenda also. They particularly target the farmers, the vulnerable society, to keep the the crash is burning. So when the mind is in chaos, as we were discussing earlier, when the mind is in chaos, everything will be in chaos. We cannot think about economy, we cannot think about life, health, anything. And what is the most important aspect which we have endured during this last more than 6 months is mental health.
Exactly.
For instance, now the new generation of the children, they said they are afraid to go to school. They say that the people from a particular community, they will be attacking them, then they will be kidnapped, because we have heard so many stories, very unfortunate stories of recent 2 school students missing.
Right.
Then earlier, one girl and a boy, very unfortunately, they disappeared, and their very unfortunate viral photographs also emerged. So the children are affected, their mentals are in a disturbed state. So everybody in Manipur are in a disturbed state. And when the state is in a chaos, when people living in Manipur are in problem, what the people of Manipur expect, as Tamo exploited, is 2 strategies. One is economic strategy to resolve the crisis, to help those affected, and the other is a security aspect. And we want the problem to be solved through dialogue. For instance, when military strategy is used, when a particular community is arrested, detained, whatever, they have the sort of humiliation. So the crisis will linger on, it will linger, because one community will be affected to today, then another community will be affected, as it is going on now. So the best solution is central intervention with a big economic package, and a perfect security arrangement, not the one which we are seeing today.
Right.
And when we come to, as Tamo pointed out about the economic arrangement, we want a certain grant fund to be sanctioned to provide security, house, and a future for the affected people and the people at large. And we want it to be monitored by a certain group involving government machineries, then financial experts like Tamo, then stakeholders like those affected people, and local societies. So if they have a certain percent of grant, then they can slowly develop the society, their families, they can look after their families and start a new life.
Yes.
So these are the 2 issues that I want to focus, so that we can have a bright future and we can fight over this crisis. And I will conclude this section. Thank you.
Okay, a very good point that the center's intervention is needed, because our state government has not been able to make a solid policy, especially an economic policy regarding the benefits, especially considering those displaced in the relief camps, and especially considering those of the students who are not able to attend the classes. And on that note, an center's intervention is needed, is what Mr. Seitajeet has put forward. And on that note, and since Mr. Seitajeet also mentioned about health and the mental health, I would like to ask to Professor Yumnam regarding the healthcare of our state, and especially regarding the rising cost of healthcare. It is forcing a lot of people to postpone their medical visits because of the rising cost of the rising prices of this healthcare. And it makes the conditions of these people who are sick, it makes their conditions very worse. And at last, they have to resort to selling off their land and expensive properties to go to out-of-state treatments, leading to more financial struggles. So I would like to know from you, Professor Amar Yumnam, is there a viable solution or some kind of a bailout, substantial bailout, to prevent such financial devastation of families, especially with consideration within healthcare sector?
See, let me make it very clear. Before starting the discussion, I reported that there is an online vegetable supplier for Manipur vegetables in Hyderabad.
Yes.
When I buy online our hangam,
Okay.
well, mustard leaves, or our support, because I want to eat our kangsoy.
Okay.
The point is that when I buy the hangam, when I buy our support, the money immediately goes back to Imphal. The money is the money from Hyderabad going to Manipur's allied activity, agriculture's allied activity.
Right.
The question is how we evolve. Our discussion put it very lively, that very wonderful way. Well, our agriculture, we have to make it very, very lively. And agriculture can very lively when we make it, well, a kind of activity whereby the other allied activities also are cultivated, are nurtured, and that the two allied activities and the agriculture, they grow together. That is how Punjab gave us a model. That is how Punjab gave us a model. That is essentially where Manipur had and has a wonderful opportunity to give to the world, whereby personally our vegetables are very tasty compared to other places.
Right.
Our soils are very fertile, unlike other places. Now the question is, how can we kind of involve a kind of a relationship between policy interpretation, whereby the farmer needs something which the farmer cannot himself or herself supply. How could the state play a role in that? How could the government play a role in that? Because it happens in the government's resource mobilization also. We are leaving everything to the, well, what we call leave everything to the fortune. No. We can't leave everything to the fortune. We have to evolve a kind of framework whereby the fortunes themselves interact with one another to give us a kind of outcome whereby the result is good for all of us. As I said, money from Hyderabad is now flowing. It must be true for other cities of the country as well. It must be there in Delhi, it must be there in Chennai, it must be there. Well, Calcutta has been there for long. Well, when things are happening like this right now, the question is, how can we evoke a kind of a policy intervention in such scenery? It's a private initiative.
Right.
It's a private initiative right now. The question is, how can we create a kind of atmosphere whereby such activities get multiplied? For example, when I process a slips of papers for yesterday, it was written made in China. I'm buying a pen for writing some notes on. Well, the money was immediately going to China, unknowingly. Similarly, the question is, how can we evolve a kind of not just consumption? We kind of evolve a protection system whereby the money comes to Manipur spontaneously,
Okay.
knowingly, unknowingly, from around the globe, besides the state government. And when it comes to the central thing, the ultimate policy implementation is to be done by the organs of the state government. And necessarily the state government should have, even though it doesn't have now, the state government should necessarily have a better capacity to appreciate the issues the people have to address. Well, center today doesn't have the kind of a capability to address the issues of Manipur. When we have a government at a center which didn't feel it necessary to shed tears when school-going boys and girls were killed.
Right.
That means the central government doesn't have the capability to appreciate the sentiments of the people. We need the state government, but the state government should apply its mind and assert what we need, and that is also absent. That is where the people of Manipur are in. Right now, as our discussion also has emphasized, we need a kind of engagement today by the government whereby we give a model to the world. How can a small place, but characterized by diverse groups of people, emerge out of such a crisis, give a kind of development model to the rest of the world? That is where we need to apply our mind. That is actually where our agriculture and the allied activity relationship become very significant. And that is important also. That is important also. And this is how we should be applying our mind. But that is exactly where we have a problem. It is as if the government doesn't like to apply its mind. It is as if the central government doesn't apply its mind. But without applying its mind, the problems themselves will not give us the solution.
Okay, Professor Yumnam put a very good example of private initiative that he just mentioned of the inflow of money to the state, especially to the retailers from Manipur, and to get the money to them by using e-commerce. That is a private initiative, and that the government needs to take up such kind of initiatives that have been put up by the private sector, and then to multiply it and employ it in some kind of scheme that benefits all. On that note, regarding this e-commerce and the retailers, I'd like to ask to Mr. Seitajeet that since today is Diwali and we also have Ningol Chakoba in 2 days from now, Diwali and Ningol Chakoba are big seasons for traders, for all kinds of traders, for handlooms, handicrafts, for clothing, for even for fish farmers and other vegetable farmers. They represent a highest trade volume, especially the highest trade volume has been transacted in this time of the year. But due to the violence, we have read in the newspapers today that that the market is suffering, that it is almost empty. On that note, I'd like to ask you that how can this people who have been selling this, especially the fish farmers, the clothing, and for the handlooms and handicrafts, is there some kind of way, as Mr. Amar Yumnam also said, some kind of e-tailing and using e-commerce to make their economy more viable, even in such times?
Yes. It all boils down to internet. For instance, as what Tamo said, e-commerce, then you have to order what you want through an app in your mobile and whatever it is. But you need internet for that. But the problem is, due to ban on internet, those people who had been involved in e-commerce have been badly affected. Right. And we had some mushrooming of food allied activities, home production, then local level production, and so it had generated lots of revenue and lots of jobs also. So many young girls and boys, they were generating money, they were generating jobs through e-commerce, like as Tamo said, to selling of from low level to high level food or whatever it is in the society. But unfortunately, everything collapsed in Manipur the last 6 years, and as I said, everybody is in a state of chaos. And when it comes to the festival season, as you have seen, and as I had for example, I went out today to take out some money from an ATM, but I found that all the ATMs were closed. Okay. Then I went to SBI main branch, and I saw about 1 kilometer long this queue. So we are in a state where people are working for everything and they are not able to withdraw money from ATMs. And they will say that they were bans for a few days, today is a holiday. But whatever it is, when there is festival going on, when these are special occasions, the government, those in the banking services, they should ensure that people get money, their hard-earned money, what they have in the banks, through the ATMs. So that is a basic problem. Then the other issue is this year so many civil societies and NGOs and people have announced that they will not celebrate Diwali, Ningol Chakoba, and other festivals. And in this aspect, which I would take this opportunity to appeal to the people that we should not impose people anything. For instance, those who are working, for example, poor farmers who are producing little fish and all, and people should not disturb them from selling fish and whatsoever, because they are also surviving on that. Yes. So what we can appeal is, whatever we do, let's do that in a very low scale, and if we have to give any gifts to anybody, then we can spread a message that we can purchase the gifts from those produced by those our beloved sisters and mothers who are producing beautiful products. in the relief camps. So we can start a system, and we can change the system so that those affected by the system and those affected by the crisis are helped. So we should stop fighting among ourselves, and we should stop discussing irrelevant issues. The main issue is to help the society to progress. For instance, in this aspect, we have to analyze little history a little bit. For instance, India was facing an economic crisis, and when Bibi Narasimha Rao became the Prime Minister, there was an economic boom. India developed very fast, and for instance, the United States, they faced the Great Depression, but still they recovered. So what Manipur requires now is an economic resurgence, an economic boom, and we can assure from the activities of those people who are living in the relief camps that people are ready to work. People are ready to do whatever they have in their capacity, but what they need is guidance, economic support, policy support, and support from the masses. And when we had an economic boom, and when the people are ready to support everybody, then we can assure ourselves and we can expect that we will have a bright future as we had prior to the COVID, and will be fighting with the other developed states, and so that we can expect a brighter future.
Right, very good point. I would like to that was a very good point, especially that Mr. Seitajeet mentioned that instead of controlling and putting a curb on the level of celebration this festive season, instead of doing that, why not buy gifts made by those who live in the relief camps, and also it will be beneficial for them, and then the festival spirit could also be preserved. On that note, Professor Amar Yumnam, that throughout history, especially during the First World War and the Second World War, we have read about stories of opposite sides, enemies fight. There is ceasefire, doing ceasefire during Christmas. There is a story about Christmas truce, that the British soldiers and the German soldiers, they stopped fighting, they stopped firing, and then in the spirit of Christmas, they all broke bread. They did not fight that day, and then they again continued fighting the next day, but in the name of the Christmas season and the name of the festive season, especially for humanity, they did not fight that day, and they celebrated Christmas, and it has been written in history during these two world wars. So what do you think about the ban that is going on regarding the festive season, especially during this Ningol Chakoba and Diwali times? What are your thoughts?
Well, the question here is about attitude.
Okay.
What has been the attitude of Manipur government when it comes to facing the crisis people are facing? The government, instead of addressing collaboration from the public, had no doubt in just picking up, but police just picking up for someone for making a statement or for criticizing someone. It's not for the government to harass people at this moment. It is for the government to ask for cooperation and have from all walks of life, and not going ahead with, well, picking up, arresting anyone who makes a negative comment on the performance or efficiency of the government. Compare to what happened elsewhere in the world. Let me not just talk about that Diwali example. Let's look at how government elicits cooperation of people around the globe. Not the way people have been experiencing with the government here. So exactly that, it would be wonderful if we could make or see to it that, well, the people in the relief camps, they are able to do something, that thing like that. And that would have required complete collaboration from all sections of the population. So if it is about making clothes, we need something to make the clothes. We need machinery, traditional and non-traditional. We need the inputs. things like that. And these are not things, well, the government was making announcement that it would be a matter of days when this rally comes will be there, and within days everything will be solved and things like that. So it is about the government having an attitude and an approach. That is where people will come in. Because it's not for the people themselves to evolve. See, if the government is not doing anything, the people would evolve their policy on their own. But it's a case where the people cannot evolve a policy on their own, because even making a statement can cause a tragic loss of freedom to the person who makes a statement. Let's look at even internet. They see internet as the medium used only for criticizing the government. They look at it in a very negative way. But internet right now is the best essential medium for expansion of education, for continuation of education, and for evolving knowledge. Can anyone imagine knowledge today without internet? But what is happening in Manipur? When they say that if internet is allowed to function, well, there will be criticisms emerging about the government, and people will be communicating with one another.
Right.
If there is that, if they are so inefficient to handle anything, if the government is incapable of anything, any criticism, if the government is incapable of handling any network which is not the liking of the government, when the government itself doesn't deserve to be there. It's a kind of a scenario we're in. So nobody is performing. People are worried, people are going for materials to the relief camps, but we don't have a mechanism, we don't have a framework whereby those assistance also are directed towards a given direction.
Right.
So it's a vacuum, complete vacuum. Of course, the people do contribute relief materials, but within a hollow framework. So we are in a vacuum, absolute vacuum. That is the point we are in right now.
Okay, a very dire situation has been pointed out by Professor Yumnam. On that note, as a last question, and since the time is almost about to end, I would like to wrap up. But before that, I would like to ask Mrs. Seitajeet that during warfare, warfare does not only rely on strong armies, it also relies on a very robust economy and industry. In history, we have seen that especially in World War II, the Allied forces, they won because they could destroy major industrial hubs of the Germany and of Japan, and then they lost, and then the Allied forces could win. And currently in the situation of Manipur, we see that the economic condition of Manipur is very poor. But then again, we see that there has been reported that the cookies have been funded by narco money, and also fundings from other organizations, just like the missionaries. So on this, do you think that Meitei fighters could find economic support in this fight? Do you think that donations alone could secure victory in this conflict, Mr. Seitajeet?
When the Second World War started, Germany had everything. They had the weapons, they had the resources, they had the army, and they occupied the entire Europe in a blitzkrieg. They almost occupied it very fast. But the problem here is they had everything, but when they started killing Jews, when they started killing innocents, when they started preaching supremacy of one particular cult, one particular community, they were ultimately destroyed by their own evil designs. Right. So in Manipur also, we have been attacked by a group of people or individuals or organizations who are very well equipped in media warfare, in financial activities, in military activities. They have external support from everywhere, and they are very intelligent. They know how to fight. They know how to do the propaganda, everything. For instance, you must have noticed that when the classes started, the cookies started, in spite of not having internet, they started opening media cell, and they had contacted every media, and whereas the other affected community whom they have attacked, the Meitei, they started having media cell late only in September. I mean, after 3-4 months. So the entire propaganda, whatever it is, the ultimate issue is whoever is at fault, they will ultimately fall. And as Diwali has come, this is a time when truth triumphs, when evil is destroyed, and this is a time when truth will triumph again. And we hope that whatever money which is coming through the narco-terrorists, it will be stopped. And when it comes to funding of narco-terrorism, it cannot be stopped by Manipur government only, because it involves external agencies which the government of India can do. Manipur cannot do what the government of India does. So we need a cohesive, harmonious activity between the center and the state government to stop narco-terrorism. Because we have also seen that what the narco-terrorists, what they exactly want is to have a system through which they can produce poppy, they can do various activity, and they can influence the entire political system also. So that's why they have started demanding separate administration. It is evil in design, and it disturbs the peaceful coexistence in Manipur. And so we hope that truth and sense will prevail upon them, and they will come back to their normal activities, and they will stop those who are influencing them to do evil activities. So we hope that those who are creating the crisis will stop doing that, and will be back to the position which Tamo was explaining, which we all were discussing, and we have a resurgent Manipur where our economy will bloom. And in this note also, I will add a slight issue regarding the ban also.
Sure.
For example, in a society, we cannot stop everything, because when the national games was going on, we sent a strong sports team. In spite of the crisis, they broke goals, they broke laurel for the state. Just like this, we cannot keep on crying, we cannot keep on laughing. Human society needs everything. We need, when we take food, we need water, we need, as Tamo was explaining, we need kangsoi, we need everything. So even though we cry, we will also celebrate, and we will show to the world that we have the energy, we have the resources, and we have the will to come back and build a strong, powerful Manipur.
Yes, indeed, a very beautiful point on this occasion of Diwali and Nikon Chakopa, that evil will be defeated and truth shall prevail. It has been a very warm discussion today. We have discussed about the impact of the ethnic violence in economy for the last 6 months, and also discussed about the festive spirits. On that note, we will be wrapping up this episode. I would like to thank our dear panelists, Professor Amar Yumnam and Mr. Seitajeet, for joining us today on the studio. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank our viewers for tuning in tonight. Please share your feedback and comments with us. We will be back again next Monday, same time, with more exciting topics. Until then, please keep watching ELITETV. This is Amrita signing off. Have a good week and have happy Diwali.